Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you really well.
Excellent.
Cool.
How are you doing?
Interesting. If that's even a correct comeback, but it's good enough. Really well, in that it's like I'm seeing, feeling, experiencing this amazing shift, this unveiling. Um, and I'm surrounded, um, in some ways, I'm actually embraced mostly, really, embraced um, by ones who almost, not almost, they just don't, they're not living um, this yet. I'm not, in fact, I want to kind of not even say anything and see if we actually do a reading, which not necessary, um, but it's good. I feel like it's everything is just me asking to clear out my perception so that it shows itself exactly the way it's supposed to, the way I want it to.
Right. So, there's a couple things um, we can talk about here. I want to say at the top of the list is what just happened. Because, as you probably are aware, Sunday wasn't just a single day. Sunday was actually like a whole month, like most of September.
Yeah,
It was a pretty big buildup. In fact, from what I'm getting, there was a lot of things that happened in September that didn't even look as amazing as Sunday turned out to be. So, and
mm,
so the reason for that is because everybody had sort of like um, out of the offering that September was bringing up, culminating in Sunday, and the eclipse, is that there were a lot of themes. There was a long story, and different people were attached to different chapters. Right? Different chapters had different meaning for them. So people had, their days of change were significantly different than perhaps other people. Okay,
definitely.
so everybody resonated with a different part of the offer, we'll call it. But it was from around the 4th of September, or actually the end of the 3rd of September, up
Hmm.
through um, about 5 days from now. We're being giving
Until
the we're
Wednesday, right?
um, 5 days
Is
from
it
now. I don't know what day it is.
October 4th?
October 4th.
That's the day I'm getting as well. Because
Okay.
and I understand why, as far as the Bible showing it, actually, strangely
Yeah.
enough. Anyway, but go ahead. From your
So,
perspective,
from my
this is,
perspective, it is humanity's entire story. For everyone that lives right here at this time, it explains from end to end humanity's developing consciousness on this planet. This planet, not, humanity in general. So it's the story of us. And it's like, how there's, like the Mayan calendar sort of like, you know, talked about ages. Well, this month we just dealt with an entire age of humanity. Okay? It's not quite over yet, but the main stories have been discussed. Right now, since Sunday, is the part of the story that we're unfamiliar with, because humanity's age is not over. Okay? Humanity's age has quite some time to go, like, centuries still. And what we're doing and what we're discovering right now is like, what are we as an advanced, nearly fully ascended human species? So we're not all fully ascended. We're not all awake. But we are awake enough that the 100th monkey is clearly taking place, right? Now, this existed in a micro existence at the beginning of humanity's inception as an Earth conscious collective.
Like a seed.
Right. And there were people that were awake as you and I are to the concept of creation and how to create. You know, basics of law of attraction, but you know, exaggerated into many ways and in such a way that our souls know all about it. Okay, so there are beings like that, and there are beings that practice that, and they were sort of the ones that set the stage for all of humanity's growth and discovery. And it wasn't just one; it was actually multiple different highly conscious races and individuals that came. We can call them gods, you know, on one hand. We can call them, you know, special seers, very influential people. But for the most part, we're talking even before Jesus and all that. We're talking, you know, the beginnings of the human body and whatnot, right? That quantum leap that we know that's evident in the fossil records. Okay? So, you know, we're going back to Lemuria, really, and then there's an Atlantis phase, and now we have the combination of both the Atlantis and the Lemurian phase right now, okay? There was an ending point, but it wasn't an ending point in such a way that it was, like, so terrible. What was happening is that there was a way of understanding that the population came together and that the population changed. So instead of looking at like sprawling humanity across the globe, as it has been before, there was this coalescing, people coming together and becoming like one. I want to say that the birth rate significantly drops because people significantly live longer. Okay, like, you know, centuries long. So what happens is that the actual population closes down. It collapses not because of, you know, massive, you know, dangerous things that kill people,
Right.
but that is one way that we would understand it.
As an evolved race, you don't need a whole lot of children to carry on. It's a whole
Correct.
different thing. It's a much
Right.
more conscious.
Yes.
Yes.
So the original, whatever, beginning high conscious element, that is what we're moving on to. So we're moving into the role of seeding new planetary creations. And I don't mean planetary, I mean like literally those that are awake are seeding whole new realities. Realities is easier to describe it, okay? And the realities themselves, like each one of us has our own excitement towards what reality we want to be a part of. Okay, and so in part we're like the gardener that's planting the seeds. We're the ones that are like setting up what we'd like to develop. That's what this phase right now is. The next 5 days, it's a microcosm of this, of exactly us realizing that we're choosing an entire expanded future that is literally the way we've always imagined and loved it can be, regardless of anyone else in our lives at all. Like just ours. Like really focus on us. And it's not selfish. It's literally creation. You're actually
In a way,
birthing.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Coming to that, like really clearly, feeling that, I should say. But yeah. Anyway, continue, please.
so there are a couple threads that through this month for people to be the creator at the level that they're ready to be creator. Okay, they chose to be creator, and there's like, you know, exaggerate. Do I want to build a whole nebula of experiences, or do I want to create, you know, just an ecosystem in my backyard? You know, like it's a full reality if it takes your full focus, right? So what do I want my full focus to be in? Like, what do I want to be the ends of when I wake up and when I go to sleep? What do I want it to be filled with? That's the definition for the world, okay? So, you know, no matter what the physical size is or how many people it influences on the outside, we're all playing at different levels of creation, but at the message of how it's done is the same. So there are significant downloads happening for lots of people. You can probably see it on the internet and what have you, your friends. But there's a couple for those that are interested in working with more than 1,000 people at once. And this is, I mean, people. I'm not talking about your plants in your garden. I'm talking for those in a choice of reality where they're working with more than 1,000 friends at a time, like at the same time, kind of thing. It could be more than 1,000 of influence directly that they're aware of, more than 1,000 names, but more than 1,000. It's not exactly 1,000. It's like 996 or something. But for those that are in that specific ready space, there are a couple things that divide us, and those things that divide us are being understood better, and the understanding starts to look like we'll call the old world, control structure, right? We'll call it the old world lineage of deciding how we're going to live as a people. Okay, I don't know if you want to call it Cabal or Illuminati. It doesn't matter. We'll just say those that were more conscious of creation than we were, but that we are now. And in order to be similar in creation aspects, we need to continue to fully understand what is going on, first off, because there are teachers in a sort of way as to what was planted in the past. We can sort of see, that's, now that I know what was planted, I now have the option of doing my own planting, my own reality creating. And so there's a lot of looking at these original gardeners in ways that literally said, you do not get to be like us unless you're able to forgive us and see us in the oneness that you are also.
Exactly.
Until that point, you really are not going to be able to do this, because you have to own everything. If you feel guilt, then you're not creating in your heart. If you feel anger, then you're not creating in your heart. So you need to find that balance where you find yourself understanding them as it suits. You don't have to understand them, but essentially knowing reality in a similar fashion. Because at that point, you're released from their the space that they offered you to create in their sandbox. Okay? Since the numbers were few, the archetypes of different ways of living are few. Okay? But you and I and others, and the almost 1,000 or so, that's like literally the amount of archetypes we're interested in. We don't want to plant, 27 archetypes, which is the number of archetypes of human behavior on Earth in our recent past. We're interested in 996/97. 97th is us. So we're interested in sprouting vastly universal, much more universal archetypes. And I say archetypes as in, personalities, right? You know what I get by that.
The energy of a particular thread of energy that is assisting, whatever. It's an energy field that flows, it feels like to me, and many fall within that energy type.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
And an archetype is like, I don't know, it's like a painting using the same colors. And you can find people using the same colors and a similar type of painting, exploring the same sort of themes of life, right? In the past, we could identify all 27. It's not that hard anymore because we've basically visited all of them inside ourselves and around us. We've seen the 27, and they play out. And when we have friends, you'll find that there's not more than 27 different types of friends we'll ever have.
Oh, that is so stinking cool, because that's something that I've been feeling for years, as far as seeing these types of people that come around, and even ones that look so much alike and are a lot alike, interestingly, as
And
well.
oftentimes when you leave one friend, you find a more conscious version of the same archetype in your near future as it comes out, right?
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah. So that is how we grow. We sort of skip through friends in a way. We skip through phases of people that we interact with, because we're not that archetype. We take what we're learning from that archetype in ourselves, and then that is, the rest of all that person is not of interest to us. It's not a part of our vibration to get into that level of and becoming like that archetype. We take what we want from that. We learn from that person, right? Just like our math teacher. We learn from math from our math teacher. We learn science from our science teacher. You know, we don't need our teachers after we've done that grade or whatever, okay? So being in the position that we're in, there are several things that are still, we'll call them the inner network that kept you inside a box that said, this is the world, this is the box. We set up a couple things here that define the box, which are basically the opposites of what you'll find outside, okay? So we're facing a great deal of opposites, right? So in this world that we've lived, you can talk about, you know, your whole life, you've been looking at finding out that things are actually the opposite of what they really are. It's not that they aren't. They are exactly what they are in both maybe right and wrong, but the opposite is saying you're ready to be beyond that challenge. You're ready to encompass the oneness when you can see both sides, right? The oneness, you know, first you've got, you know, the government's good for me, and then you got, wow, the government's really kind of screwed up, and then you're like, government was perfect for what it did. You know, it was great for those that still embody and enjoy it. And now it's like, but since it's not my thing anymore, government is not a part of my world. I'm beyond that type of government. Maybe I come up with a whole nother one that is exciting again, you know, and feels good to me again. Maybe I do that. Maybe I don't. It doesn't matter. But the point is, you know, we're getting beyond the duality by accepting both sides, seeing both sides. And as you're aware, people are still figuring out the first illusion that not everything is all good, and they're also figuring everything is not all bad. But then there's a union that comes. Many people are getting the fact of the union, getting the fact of the purpose. Because in the union, you can literally feel the energy.
Sorry.
Okay.
There. Okay. Yeah, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, you froze up for like the last.
Okay. So in the oneness or the unity of the polarity.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I've been missing out on probably the last 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
And I can barely hear you right now. Can you call me right back?
I will.
Okay. And are you recording this?
Yeah, I defaultly record.
Beautiful. Please do. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Right,
call me right back.
Yeah. I can hear you fine.
Much better. Okay.
So the duality, right? Thinking, you know, the duality that we recognize for ourselves as this feels good and this feels bad. There's a place in between. Once you've explored what feels good, you know, maybe I love candy, you know, that's good. And then you explore, well, candy's full of sugar, and that's bad, you know. And then you find the unity where there's a unity for the purpose of the candy in the first place to say, candy, I can use that to feel good, or I can use that to feel bad. And if I choose to make it feel good, then candy's as good as any healthy food there is out there, you see. So there's the unity where you actually get to choose what to make of it, only because you understand the full spectrum of, say, candy, the good and the bad, you know, and then you get to own your place in between. There's no judgment in the oneness for its purpose because you can see it. It's good for children, you know, in a certain way. It's not good for parents when they look at the candy in their child. But at the same time, you could even change that. It's like you're ready to see all opportunities. You say it's good for the parents because now the child, you know, is now I've got a reason to get them to eat their dinner, you know, or something like this. Whatever. It just whatever it comes about. There's all, you know, a range of opportunities through what was previously determined as good and bad in forms of manipulation.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we begin to study things like manipulation, because manipulation originally is a fully uncomfortable term, right? It's literally saying manipulation is just avoid and get away from manipulation whenever you can find it. But manipulation is, you know, different for each person. One person may consider manipulation this, another person might call manipulation creativity. So it's still relative to your centered awareness of a circumstance that you don't understand a creativity, which is also a manipulation on the opposite scale of your comfort with it, right? So
Totally.
so manipulation is usually not identified with self. Usually it's identified with an aspect we don't understand so much outside ourselves, like what someone else is doing or what someone else is saying or what have you. Because the truth of it is that you're actually feeling a disconnect from the one knowledge that holds both manipulation and creativity in the same hand. You see,
Hmm.
because everyone is creator, and there is no judgment as to anyone's creation above anyone else's. Someone else's creation is an offer for you to learn from that creation and decide if that's your creation. If that feels like manipulation, then that's not your preferred form of creation. And that's the way it is, right? Not saying manipulation is something you have to start loving when you feel it in someone else. It just means, well, now I know that's not my preferred approach to creation, and that's that.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, it's like it's someone else's, creativity. It's like I hold no, um, painful memories of the used car salesman that's significantly overpricing me and overpricing the vehicle and giving me a junker or something like that.
Now, every time I look at a car, I hear a car story, I go back to that and it colors everything.
Yeah, yeah,
That kind of thing. I totally understand what you're
yeah.
saying
But
there.
you're like, no, that's his life, and he's chosen that, and he finds balance. If he were not to find balance with that, he'd probably break out in hives every time he told a fib in his own idea. You know what I mean? So the point is, um, resistance will make you sick. That's the extreme of not paying attention to your emotions, right? And where you really are coming from, what you really would choose. And so you can both understand the scale from good to bad on any subject, right? You could decide smoking is both, is either good or bad or whatever it is, but you find your own place in it, and you won't eat yourself up inside as a result. The reason why you actually have smoking to begin with is because it is something you want to experience. It is something you want to explore. It is a type of energy that is part of you deciding what you're creating here. Okay, there's a point at which you decide smoking or smoke other people smoking. That just let's obliterate that from the human experience. No smoking for anyone. But in fact, smoking is really quite great in many ways because it's an energy supporting mechanism. It's literally like the candy. It can be great for you. It can be negative for you. It can be whatever you choose, at least when you know the end to end. So the end to end
I am exploring that
is what
right
people
now.
are doing in contemplations. It's what people are doing in their downloads, right? They're like, this I want to be beyond the limitation. I want to be beyond this controlling me. I want to be beyond this so that I can actually own this and I can be a creator being involving this, right? So we'll take the example of cigarettes. I want to turn cigarettes into like magic mushrooms. I want them to be like a consciousness expanding tool. And you can. You're like, well, what does it take? What does it take? Well, you may go into investigating the materials that are put into it. And then you may say, you know what, materials, be damned, it doesn't matter what the materials are. My intention alone magically rearranges its purpose. And my body literally receives exactly what I've decided that the cigarette is giving me. So everything that's not in alignment just doesn't get absorbed. It doesn't stay, right? It's like it pings off a bulletproof mirror or something. It just doesn't affect. So more and more as that happens, you say, well, yes, I'm getting the best out of this cigarette in the way that I choose. It's programmed to be such a way, but I'm feeling I can do more than this. So you start attracting new types of cigarettes and new substances that you can wrap into your cigarettes. You start finding alternative forms of of fumes that give you the experiences you're looking for, and all of a sudden you start finding ways of making your own alchemy. You start creating, you start inventing, and and discovering this, and you find yourself in a place where you've got the new cigarette that everybody loves. Why do they love it? Because you love it. Okay, so as you love it, you've now brought this to the world. Whose world? Just yours. It's your world. Everybody reacts in the way that you feel is of benefit on the grander scale. This is good for my sandbox. So great. I'm not bringing opposition in this place. I'm bringing my full alignment as I know it. So we are going through the things that, and this is with the stories we're talking about in our last month or so, is that we're talking about the things that we say, you know what, that limit just doesn't feel like I want it in my new sandbox. It's just not a playful thing enough for me. It's just not playful enough. So we're saying our fears. We've been addressing our fears over such a long time, but now we're addressing some of the ones that are, you know what, this is just not in my game anymore. This is just not in my my sandlot. And the things that come up are food. For me, in my case, food. It came down to the real simple ingredients of what's in the ingredient of food. You know what? If you like it, it's going to work for you. If you're in love with it, it's really going to work for you. If you're eating it out of a rhythm or a pattern of the past, you probably don't even need to be eating. You probably just don't even need to, right? If you haven't found the oneness in every offering, if you haven't found that place where it's true bliss because there's absolute freedom in it, that hot dog that used to give me indigestion, but I loved it in my childhood. I just became this place where, for some reason, I need to have an excuse for why I couldn't eat hot dogs all the time. My parents told me, you can't eat hot dogs all the time. And so I found, well, maybe now I'm introduced to the idea that hot dogs aren't perfect at that time. And now I can go back and say, wait a second. If I feel good, then it is perfect. Boom, the end. Hot dogs. It's the new wonder meal, So, and now it's like, I want to explore lots of toppings on hot dogs. I want to take it to places I've never seen before in my childhood. That was provided to me. Now I'm providing onto it. I'm going to start, a hot dog food truck or something, whatever. The point is, food is, when you get to a level of sensitivity, I'm not saying you have to. You can just feel good about it. You just know you have good memories that you can resummon. Good memories like tiramisu. I had tiramisu at, my wedding anniversary or something like that, and it reminds me of that. And I will always feel that same way when I have tiramisu. Even crappy tiramisu is still great because it still reminds me. And the reminding beyond the flavors are what actually is what I'm doing. I'm bringing energy in.
That emotion that you felt so good in.
Yes. So food often reconnects us to great memories. It often reconnects us a lot to our childhood. So a lot of people's favorite foods, they may find that they had in their childhoods because they're vibrationally succinct with a state of, wow, I really like being a child. So my childhood favorites, or the food my mother used to cook for me, those tend to resound as a grounding of like, you know what, this always worked for me. Rice and root vegetables always work for me. It's great. I gain no negative results of eating that because I just don't care. Now, those that don't even expand into, rice is, eat too much rice, you get sick or whatever, will say a child, they don't have that problem. If rice was never a problem for you growing up, then rice, the negative side of rice is not even on the scale of what you explore. Rice can be literally just a perfect food. Now we can say, well, if you're smart, then you'll research your food. Well, smart is just another way of saying I want to get into other little details. I want to get into more subtleties and more exploration on a single subject. I want to get into the micro of what something is offering. But you don't have to at all. You really don't. You can be a total idiot when it comes to food. As long as it tastes great and you're happy and enjoying it in that moment, then it will be that. Now we look around at other people getting digestion from eating hot dogs and whatever, but those are offers. They're not actually your experience until you believe it, right?
Got it.
So no one outside of us is more influential on our experience than us. Quite literally, everyone's an offer, and we've asked for it. We'd be like, let's see what other people are exploring in the subject of hot dogs. I'm like, whoa. This guy, he's winning the hot dog eating contest. You know what? that sounds cool, but it's not for me. I'm not into the hot dog eating contest. I don't want, to do it. I don't want to be like, I can eat a lot of hot dogs. That's not the way I like hot dogs. I like hot dogs because I like ketchup and I like bread and I like, whatever, the salty of the meat, whatever it is. So,
So basically, we've obviously been doing this all along, but
mhm.
this time that we're in right now is, and especially these next 4 days.
The 4 days will complete some of the preparation for how are you going to create. What are you in a creation mode about? What is your heart, which is your ultimate source of the energy and the we'll call it the money that pays your creations, right? Your heart is like, that's your bank, right? That's what helps you get stuff done, is by
Well,
emotionally bringing it in, right? And excitement, right? I mean, you could always create just by saying it over and over and over and over again and tell your body it does that. Or you can be like, hey body, this is great. And be like, oh yeah, of course it is. And your body will just get it. You don't have to repeat it. So that practice is something that, is very, very simple. It's not complicated. But like I was saying, there's a couple threads that are still remaining for a couple people. We've already gone through a couple, and I'm really excited by learning about them at a much greater level of detail. Things like past lives, what the other lives have been, things like what death really is, how you don't actually die, and how we have this idea of like death is bad, and my best friend died, and if I shoot somebody in the face, that's bad death and stuff. But there's all death is in unity. All death is in oneness. So death is simply, what's confusing is that it's actually our observation, okay? Other people dying is not the same as our dying. When we die, it's not like what happens with other people, because we are missing a significant amount of what they're going through. We're missing a significant piece of their experience. How can we decide that death in general is a problem? Because in fact, we don't get to see the Groundhog Day element. Where this place where you die and you look at your life and you say, oh, I could have done things better. Actually, you're allowed to go back. You're allowed to go back and fix that. We'll just say, we won't even have to experience that. Can you think of what would have made things better? Yeah, if I just eaten more grape soda, I would have been a happier person and it would have led to a different part of my life. Okay, well, think about it. Okay, that happened. Now we're going to say that happened. It didn't take much to explore that. And we're going to send you back into 2015. Now, you enjoy grape soda. And you show up as the person after you die, and you say, we're gonna cut out the dying because you never would have died now with the grape soda. But this is where you're going to be. You're going to wake up tomorrow morning in the world in which you were the grape soda lover. And you wake up, and you don't even know. You don't even know that you died. You don't even know that you had I'm at the end of my rope and I need to recoil. Okay? You don't even know, because you're actually not interested in exploring why didn't I like grape soda? Why didn't I like... Nah, you just do. You don't need to explore that. You wake up, you're a grape soda lover, and something makes you wonder. I mean, you have grape soda in your fridge, and you start to look at it and say, this is really funny. I had this feeling that once upon a time, I thought grape soda wasn't good for me. I don't even know what I was thinking. That grape soda is so good. I'm so glad I have grape soda, and you're there. You don't even know about your other lifetime. Now, you can explore, if you wish, simply to understand the fabric of how reality comes together and the difference between timelines and lifelines. But it doesn't necessarily suit. There's just so much where you're outside the sandbox. You don't get to play in the sandbox because you're so detached from everything to play with, right? This is where, you become holy, you're in a cave, but it becomes not an expression of creation when you're in that way, right? It's just an expression of observation alone, right?
Yeah, that's what's interesting right there. Oh my gosh, everything that you're talking about, really just about everything you're talking about is harkening back to something that's been put in front of me to read, to take into my energy field that I brought in front of me, obviously. But it's like one thing after another. But it's interesting, and what you just said too. I just watched something on that talking about Eastern versus Western, and how Eastern was all about going within and being the observer and not
Mm-hmm.
having the experience.
Yes.
Um, and that's actually where I've been for a while,
Mm-hmm.
literally like withdrawing. But I must have obviously programmed myself to do this, um, because I don't feel like I've got any choice. But you know what? I'm getting kind of tired of it. I'm ready to start exploring. I
So,
want want to create.
right. Because if you were meant to be a fully Eastern element, you would go where your vibration was supported to be fully Eastern. You wouldn't be in America. You would be
Mm.
in India or something, or in China or Tibet. Doesn't matter. You would be there. So there's, the Western philosophy and there's Eastern philosophy. Why not have both? Why
Yes,
not find the
exactly.
place where you
It's,
are a master experiencer of both working together, you see? Okay? This is where America is the penultimate Western philosophical, let's have a life that we choose, right? And Eastern is, the penultimate, let's have the life that's provided and enjoyed, regardless of circumstance or creation. Enjoy it for whatever it is. There's a place where it leaves out the part where you are ultimately the chooser and the allower at the same time. So, I'll briefly describe, if you haven't already come across this, my recent experiences of September. That might bring some insight. So, um, as you probably remember, my two guides are the Sun and Gaia. They do the most awesome talking to me. Um, and recently, I came into another guide that I wasn't familiar with immediately, and this guide's name is Logos, which is basically everything. It's another name for God, but more describing everything that is and everything that isn't, right? Sun is an is, right?
yes,
And
no, that's so funny because I was told that the secret to the universe is snot. I think I've told you about this before, but maybe you'll understand it differently now. And that's because everything is until it's not
mhm,
anymore. Everything is and it's not all at the same time.
yes, and in the being not, it's not a nothing. There's a difference between a nothing. A nothing is a non-observation, right? There's no observation. That is a nothing. Things that I don't know about, that's nothing. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it can't exist. It can become a something that I don't know about, and I can
And no,
find out I don't know about, and that
just
is
like
more.
there is nowhere is now here as well.
Yes, yes. So, um, anyhow, Logos had a lot to talk about, and Logos really doesn't pull any punches. Um, he is a being that not only do I ask questions of, but he poses questions to me. Like he knows where he knows where I'm going, and he knows exactly what to propose. And when you ask a question, he'll keep going and tell you all the things that are stem off from that as well. Okay, and he said death is really really enjoyable, that we chose death to be this way. He said it's a really really good edge of the box term, right? This idea that we call death the end point or something. Even though the top of the box is open, anybody that wants to figure out more about the limitlessness that you find in the concept of what we're calling death, there is beyond that. And so he described me and everybody as explorer creators. He says that's what you are. You're explorer creators. You're not just explorer, you're not just creator, but you're both, like a 50-50. Now, there is a word for that, and that is you are the one. You are the one that is the isness, that is as a result of exploring and creating. The word exploring and creating is just so that the mind can get a handle on it. Okay, it's the
Yeah.
two words just so that the mind can get a handle on it. That really doesn't matter what you call it, but that was so that I can get a grip. 50% exploring, 50% creating. That balance, as you recognize what exploring is, and as you understand what creating is, you have a balance.
You know
50% is
what
not
I
the
think
same between each one of us. Go ahead.
every time you talk about this balance, and it comes up for me, it's come up for me for years, but certainly very much over these past, gosh, even just 2 weeks. And that is the yin yang symbol with the curve in the center, because that actually rolls it, the dark in the light and the light in the dark. And it's like we look for those. And as we look for those, we spin it. It becomes a spin when it becomes balanced. And it feels like it shoots off into new creations all the time, every time you can get it balanced and spinning.
Yes. Balanced and motion,
Most.
which is the mind's term for time and
Uh,
progress, right?
uh,
If you don't have a spin, then there's a mutable existence. Then all that is just a standard fact. But time allows you to evolve a fact. It allows you to move onto a more higher conscious version of a fact, and to adjust the fact into higher dimensions of understanding. So there's yin yang, and then in fifth dimensional, the yin yang is twirling because you're observing exactly at which pace do you want to say white is dark and dark is white, and then together they exchange places. Each time you jump a dimension of perception, they change places. It's now the right thing, it's now the wrong thing, it's now the right thing, until eventually you say, you know what, in fifth dimension, it's all right. It's all just different levels of when the white's on this side and when the black's on this side. It's just all.
and that's what creates the movement, the contrast to be able to move. But when it's not contrast like we've made it here
Yeah.
for our enjoyment, then it can be anything. It can be anything we choose. But I've got a question for you in this. Maybe I'm sure you've come across it in your connections. What? Wow. It's like part of me is trying to hide it from me. Maybe because I'm not supposed to know, but yeah, because this does not want to come out. I'll just have to bring it out later if it's supposed to come out.
It's when it's ready to. You can't have a possible experience of something that you're just not ready for, is all that it comes down to. So,
Okay.
because, where you stand is a current context of your beliefs combined, and they're still holding some structure. What happens, as you're aware, when you start doing a lot of exploring, right, there sort of asks for something to ground, something to anchor you so that you don't leave what you've already gone through. There's like memories, things like this, so that you don't leave the significance of everything that your mind still says, hey, I'm defined by my past here. I'm defined by everything I learn. If you go too far off the beaten path, then where am I? Where am I in this future? So there's, to be creator, you use mind. To be explorer, you use your senses, okay? So that's like a relationship between your body, which is your senses, right, and the feedback mechanism, and your mind, which is allowing the creativity to come through and create. Now, on one level, you already know that many people don't acknowledge that they create. They simply explore what they've created, but that was a default state. When you're creator consciously, things start moving really quickly. And when it starts moving really quickly, your mind starts to say, hey, that was me, right? That was me that helped create that? And you say, yes, it was. Good job, and creation is grounding. Creating is literally saying, I'm planting this, I'm calling it a belief now, I'm calling it a stable level of observation so that I can explore with that as a platform, right? I can't explore candy unless I first explore what it is to put things in my mouth, You have to have a certain amount of grounding for that. You say, duh, of course you put things in your mouth. Well, yes, that grounding was established before you're born. It's your instinct. So that grounding was established by Gaia and humanity's cultured system of how to feed oneself. But before you knew how to feed yourself, you had to have someone feed you before that. Before you had that ability, you were offered that. So you were taught and given a sense of grounding. But now, there's people that look at food, they just hold in their hand and it just disappears. It gets absorbed, right? It's like, okay, I guess you didn't really need your mouth, right? So even eating is optional in the way that it occurs. But there's no need to remove that. There's no need to say, I'm not going to use my mouth anymore because, absorbing it through my hand sounds cooler. It's not necessary. Your tongue has a lot to explore, has a lot of exploration in it. Your hand, not as much exploration, not as many nerve endings to feel and whatnot. You can make your hand as sensitive as your tongue, but then at the same time, everything you touch would be unanimously overbearing over your senses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd be like, I can't even use my mouse anymore. It tastes like mold and plastic, So the grounding has its value. And so this entire world is grounded, just like a baby. It doesn't know what it sees until the symbols and the beliefs of what they are start to make a valuable sense, like this is the ground. I crawl on the ground. It's not above me. Above me is not the ground. The ground serves the purpose of me being able to walk on it. I don't walk on walls, as much as my father picked me up and put me against the wall, made me pretend I walked on walls. Overall, I don't walk on walls, So all these things get established. Now mine is there. And as you know, it's been there since, you started to have the five senses to explore, right? As you receive, you create, you build a belief, it becomes so. It becomes structured in your body to have gravity, right? And the floor. And so your optimal height and weight are determined as you determine how valuable gravity is to your life, right? Mm-hmm. Things like this. I had no idea about your height and weight are determined by your attachment to the concept of owning gravity and gravity owning you. I'm like, oh, God, really? Yeah. I was like, oh, shoot, okay, yeah. So you gain more weight by need of having gravity serve you. Quite literally. It also affects the density. There's many ways in which you gain weight, in the density of your body and in the size of your body, like physical size. Mm-hmm. So there's a point at which, in the not too near future, not too far off future, where you basically choose what your body is ideal to be with regards to what you choose to ground, right? You want to live on the moon, you'll want to become a little bit heavier as gravity starts to become an issue when you start jumping too high or walking too quickly. So you become heavier so that you can walk like you did on Earth, which is a more preferable memory as to walking, you see. So these sorts of things, they come about. And, you're exploring those belief systems. The belief system of death was functional. But there's a point at which exploring beyond death allows you to, one, you're allowed to make mistakes. Two, no one can threaten you with death. No one is more important. No one can actually threaten you with death. Say, you want to shoot me? Go ahead and shoot me. I'm just going to come right back. Okay? You can tell him that, and he'll be like, what? What are you talking about? What are you going to come right back? I was like, what, are you going to come out of the hospital? I was like, no. Put this right on my forehead. Shoot, and I'll be like, thank you. I had that experience. I'm going to come back and see if I want to try it out again. Maybe I'll get you to put it on my chest and see how dying that way feels. Until I've explored it all. But in general, dying, it's very explored. All the different ways of dying, yes, explored. A lot like Bill Murray and, Groundhog Day. He explored all the ways to die. Toaster in the bathtub, whatever. Okay? It's got a lot of lackluster entertainment value in it now at this point. Now, killing and dying is all relegated to how video games can explore it in ways that the body physically can't manage to die 20 times in 10 minutes, But in a video game, you can go through rounds of just dying. Oh my God, oh, that was funny. Oh my God, that was really cute. Oh, I got blown up. I haven't gotten blown up. That's cool. So, it's relegated to other forms of exploring it, not at the height of actually exploring it, you see. So that's why people can have joy in violent video games. It's like, yeah, it's not as ideal in real life. Whatever. So the next element that unlocked for me, that really excited me, if the fact that you can't die doesn't already excite someone, the fact that you can eat whatever you want doesn't already excite someone.
I've always known that you couldn't die, but I didn't And interestingly, this whole Groundhog Day concept has been coming into my awareness over the last several days. Um, but I needed to hear it just like you said it.
Yeah.
That was so fucking cool. Yeah.
Yes. This whole element where you go and you get to review your life, you don't have to review your whole life. And the fact that you can say, yeah, I'm good with that. I'm gonna pick up a whole new body at this point. I feel like I've tried out a lot. That was great. That doesn't happen very often though. That's not actually typical. It's only typical in a place where you can't move beyond your limits because you say, you know what, I want to try new things, but boy, in this body, it's just going to be difficult to do that. And the limit is that you don't feel like you can change your body. That's the limit. You feel like I'm stuck with this. The limit is that's not true. Okay? Or the truth is that that's not true. You're not stuck with this. So exploration has no rules. Exploration says you'll love it if you haven't a good experience of it yet. And your soul does not acquire a lot of knowledge about that subject. So you'll love it because you're adding on to the awareness of all that is by accumulating memories and experiences that when you go to sleep, all gets filed away in the soul, right? So as you go to sleep, you say, soul, guess what I did today? They'd be like, yeah, I was watching. Tell me about it. What was the highlights here? What did you really like? I'm like, oh, well, this and this and this, And I watched a movie. Oh, my God, I learned a bunch of stuff about the movie, through the movie, too, about stuff. I was like, oh, that's great, right? Because a movie is nothing, it's not anything other than real life, too. You actually live the movie in that moment in time. Yeah. So, and then you say, well, okay, so you got all this great stuff you did today. It's kind of like, how'd you do at school? What do you want to do tomorrow? I was like, I don't know. Well, take a couple things that you thought about, maybe some stuff that you wanted to do a couple days ago, and talk about what you want to do tomorrow. And you do that. You start exploring it, and you start having conversations with soul, as if it's like your parents or something like that you're just excited to share with. And sometimes the parents say, you know what? We're going to give you a nightmare. We're going to give you zombies or something, and you're going to wake up and be like, oh my God, I really hate zombies. I'm scared of zombies, right? And you're like, why? Why do I have terrible dreams about a zombie? Like I was being hunted or something like this. Like, oh gosh. And basically, the lesson that your soul was saying, you know what? You've been watching a lot of zombie movies lately. How does it feel to go to the next level? Do you like that next level? Because, it's an option. If you want to go there, let's get ready. Let's set that up. No, I don't want the next level. Let's keep it in movies and video games. Let's keep it there. I don't want the next level. I changed my mind. I didn't actually want to explore beyond this point. Oh, so it feels right. You know that you don't want to be a zombie or you don't want to explore a zombie world. Oh, good for you. Good thing you found that out. Good thing you know how to identify what's in your heart because your feeling tells you, yep, zombies, not ideal. Now, it doesn't mean that, oh, I should get over all my fears. Zombies, I should make friends with them and, whatever. Say no. You just, that's a completely other world.
Yeah.
It's like when you're ready, you'll be like, damn, this world's so boring. Send me into the zombie world. Because that would be exciting once again.
Yeah. I've been kind of feeling like that's how I've been feeling about this world. But it's almost like maybe I had the feeling as I was saying that, maybe it's just because I went with an old feeling about letting go of everything, letting go of everything, letting go of everything to clear my vessel for this time, for this to be able to come through.
Yeah, there's a great amount of clearing the sandbox of all the old toys. There's definitely a phase of that. I nearly zonked out the other night. And I was really grateful that Crystal was with me to follow through with what I was looking for and what I was ready for. As I was getting insight from logos, I was getting to a point where I didn't even know how to clear more. And so she led me into the bathtub with the crystal water. And and we had a bath together, and that kept me from falling asleep, right? So it was like led me to another kind of meditation, and I literally, I don't know how long it was, half an hour, 45 minutes till the water got cold. It was literally like stuff was just going out without using my conscious, because my conscious didn't know how to let it go. It had to come out in other forms. And even after that, I'm sitting on the couch. I literally almost feel like I can't do anything. I'm just there. I'm like no awareness whatsoever. All I'm aware of is this second. Like literally, I have nothing to think about. There's nothing interesting to think about. Why isn't there anything interesting to think about? Because you're clearing right now. You're just, you're doing the trash. You're offloading, but you don't get so attached to the trash you're letting go of, so that you start acting like a hoarder. No, I don't want to get rid of that. It's like no, we're just letting it
But
out.
that's not a problem for me. It's just what it feels like for me is like, well, look, it can't be too much, but I feel like I've been doing this for so long, and I know that I'm kind of on the precipice of breaking through into whatever is in my vortex, whatever that is. Is there something even that I can't see right now? Obviously, everything is out there that I can see right now, but I
So
feel like I'm at something, and I want to know the answer, and I don't
okay,
know what the question is.
so I'll briefly describe that sensation. The emptying out, you may not be fully aware of it, but it takes a long time to develop the size of your brain to consider lots of things at the same time. So you can have a very complex life, or you can have a very simple life. But regardless of which you choose, your brain is going to be associated with how many factors you can account for. So people that are intelligent, okay, they account for a lot of details. They like to have a lot of substance. They like to have their sandbox full of lots of toys. Okay, lots of things to bounce off one another. Someone simple is like, I just want my little truck. That's it. Like I just like driving trucks. I just like driving loaders or something. So in order to explore beyond that, it takes a great deal of time to stretch out your brain so that I can
Uh-oh,
play with.
you froze up.
Okay, am I
It
back?
takes and then you're
It
gone.
can
There you
take
are.
a great deal of life amount of time, like your brain organically growing, for you to start saying, I like loaders and trucks, and I have two things to drive. You know what I mean? It's like, how many children is my capacity? I like children, but I don't like 50. You know, it's like your capacity to decide how many details are you interested in experiencing day to day. Okay, so there comes this point where you're cleaning out, so you have room to account for more details, and sometimes, and this is your case specifically, is that the things that you come into contact that you're about to explore in a more visceral way it's like a whole universe to explore. You're trying to really make as much room out. You're really clearing out the apartment, because this is going to be very difficult and challenging to fit in all at once. And you know that you're going to want to explore everything. It's a brand new world. You really want to explore everything, but you can't fit it in. You're going to become like a super hoarder eventually of all these awesome things to talk about, all these awesome things to explore and to share. Oh my God, come on over. I got so many things that's going on. But it's like, it's almost nothing at all. I'm not driving a truck now. Now I'm flying. And in the world of being able to fly, there's a whole nother, aspect to living life. I can go anywhere on the planet. There is no borders because I fly. My biggest nuisances are, getting hit in the face by bugs, because I can't see them. And so, literally simple things like that start to be funny, because you realize, oh my God, I've never flown, and I've never gotten hit in the forehead by a bug before. Maybe if I had ridden a motorcycle or a convertible, I might be used to that, but I've never done this. So
So
yeah,
let's get rid of the bugs.
right. So you go and you start, maybe getting plants from around the world and bring them home, and you're like, oh, these great plants, and I have access to things like the ayahuasca plant, maybe. I always wanted to. I've got all these friends now from all over the world, and, off world, I've got friends. And so the creating space is a place where your mind says, I'm getting ready for something big. Now, on the one hand, people do that if they've been living a long life and they're moving in the direction of depressed, right? More and more depressed. They basically say, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. Nothing matters, nothing matters, nothing matters. It doesn't matter, I don't matter. And then you're like, you know what? You're ready for another life. You're ready for another body. You're ready to explore things like a child again, So let's get you ready for another thing. And that's, what your typical old age function was and as you look at other people. But you could always be like, I'm going to live to 100 because I'm still excited about stuff I'm seeing. I'm going to live to 1,000. But, honestly, living to 1,000 is not that ideal on Earth because I start to stick out and I end up just trying to answer more people's questions than I'm interested in exploring. So I leave at around 100 years old because, the Earth is just not my playground. It's not as playful. There's too many limits on Earth at this point. So what are we doing here? We're saying, let's bring what's off planet here, and let's bring of all around the planet here. So let's get a much more juicy experience of Earth. This is what the next 15 years looks like. You get to try everything. Not only food, but where you live, climates, experiences, climbing Mount Everest, whatever. Everything that you ever wanted to do as a human on Earth, you'll get to do it now. And you'll also get to do things you still haven't heard of, which is basically exploring technology. Like, oh my God, the new internet's amazing. Or, oh my God, these jetpacks are just so awesome, Or maybe I never had this opportunity to see birds up close because now I've got this thing that makes me harmonic with birds and I can go up to any bird now and hold it in my hands, that doesn't fly away. All these different opportunities. Energy, extremely abundant. Electricity is about to become an extinct form of communication. We don't talk about electricity because it's just there, whatever you want. It's like sunlight, If there's no electricity there, there's no sunlight at this moment. But it comes back around and there's always energy available. Electricity in particular. Food, same thing. It'll be like, I used to do 3 meals a day. That's what I used to believe. Now it's, I eat it maybe once a week nowadays. And it just seems, ideal for me. Mostly because I'm overwhelmed by the energetic allowing that I'm doing and just making me so alive by all this experience that I'm exploring. I'm literally like a puppy dog released into a new apartment, running around checking out all the rooms. It's very much like that. It's like giving a teenager $100 and sending them to the mall. It's like, oh my God, run around, try everything. What else? And once they run out of $100, they just go back and here's another $100. Go see what else you can buy and explore and whatever. It's very much that space that you're coming close to. The reason why that there are a couple threads that remain tied to what you'll call the way it is or the way it was is because there's a time that a couple of us have decided that's actually my graduation date. That is actually my date. That's when I'm ready to do a whole nother story. And the reason for that is because I'd like to bring some of my friends with me. I don't want to go it alone. I want to have some friends. I want to have people to share, people that I know, people I'm familiar with. And I also want it so that there's people that are going to be like me, that are where I'm going, that are already familiar, that are going to be new friends. So I'm going to have new friends and old friends, but they're not going to be like the friends I know here that basically choose to sort of like live in silence of their creation. So I'm preparing myself for what kind of people I'm going to be meeting next. And those are including extraterrestrials, friends and people that are like humans, but they have a couple ingredients we've never seen before to their life. They're not one of the 27 archetypes, essentially. They live outside those. They live amongst 1,000 archetypes. So we begin to explore the 996 archetypes of human experience, and we try them out for the next very long time. And in this process, especially of dying, this idea that I mean to die to have a new experience is pretty much gone. Okay, eternal life is already present.
Yep.
No one dies now. I found out about the people that died; they didn't die. I was really excited to find out about Michael Jackson and Robin Williams and these other people, what they're doing. I'm not going to get into too much detail about that, but they didn't die. They died because that was the way we were not ready to live. Okay, Michael Jackson died because that's what we received as an example of this is an exaggeration of an experience that is beyond our comfort levels. We did not want to live like Michael Jackson had been living. As exciting as it was to be rich and have everything at your fingertips, we did not like the idea of constantly being questioned and constantly being, analyzed and psychoanalyzed and been giving drugs and all this to try to make us normal. He wanted to be abnormal, and he knew he was abnormal, and he got to be abnormal where he went. Where he went was a place where he didn't die. He only died in our experience. I got to see that he was alive again, that he never died in the first place, that he regressed in age. And it's hard to explain, but it's more like a concept at this time because we're not living it. So what happened particularly around the time of my birthday is I got to see what's termed the Ascension Crew on Cloud 9. So this is the place in heaven where people are beyond their lives, okay? They're beyond the physical aspects of their lives, and they get together. We can call this the dream space, or we can call this the astral or the etheric. It doesn't matter. It's a physical place. It's very organized, and yes, it does look like clouds up above the planet. So you're standing amongst many other people, and they are people that are aware of their experience there. They're there, but they may leave there and go back to the planet and not know. So people show up there during their dream time, people show up there during meditations, and people show up there generally and come back with a memory only under certain circumstances. They only come back with the memory that they were there and the significances of what was there when they know the end point, when they know the literal flipping of the switch. This is my retirement date. I'm retiring on this day. And it's not retiring and dying, but it can be saying I'm giving up this part of this world, and I'm done with that. So there's a preparation. It's like saying I'm going camping at this date, and up until then I'm going to, come up with all sorts of things I want to explore, and I'm going to talk about them, and they're going to keep me in perspective of where I'm going so that I have the energy saying I'm getting ready to retire. It's like you get excited about that. I'm going to retire. I'm getting ready to retire. But in the meantime, you say I'm going to tie up all loose threads, because every thread that I tie up and wrap up, it gives me more freedom afterwards. It's almost like saying the more friends I make, the more your friends are a part of your vibration of creation by observation of yourself and other people in the next world, right? So we decided, I don't know why we decided that...
Oh, I forgot. Sorry. I left stuff in the oven that's probably crusty. Lord. Anyway.
So there's a point, and you don't really get to know this until you have your own Cloud 9 experience. And usually people get together on Cloud 9 during major points in time that we call downloads or, astrological dates of energy, because they can really sort of like shove you up to the place where you're above the cloud seeing things. The Cloud 9 is also defined also as the veil. So when you're beyond the veil, you're like, oh, this is what it's like beyond the veil. Oh my gosh, okay. Now that I feel and know what life is like beyond the veil, I have an anchor beyond the veil. I have something to look forward to. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had that with my mushroom trips. Because,
yes.
And that's exactly how it feels for me. It was definitely something. I was just telling Matt about it yesterday, or day before yesterday, one of the two, that I feel like that experience was something that I put there so that I could have something that was like a vortex between me and that energy that was constant, that was always connected.
Yes, that connects you. Just like you have an anchor to having a physical experience, you have an anchor to your next physical experience. It's kind of like
Yeah.
if I told you what your next life was, who you're going to be, you'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. That's everything I've been dreaming about. It's like, well, that's like what you've been anchoring. You already know that. It's an evident timeline. It's literally your future that your mind can't figure out because it's
Yeah.
not to figure it out. In order to figure it out, it needs to let go to get there. It's a letting go to receive it. So explore and creation take on a whole new meaning. So at this time, as you're aware, the mind is going through how creation works, so that it can play with creation a little better. That's law of attraction. That's practicing it. Your mind's getting used to this whole I'm the center of reality for my own experience, and my relative experience to everyone else. So that's why we still like learn about physical manifestational concepts and all. That's why we're still doing this, because it's still reminding us of our creatorness and where we want to go. You don't have to learn about any of that. You still get to be creator of your new reality at any point that you wish. So for some reason, in my timeline reality, I asked for just about everybody to go, because in Cloud 9 they say, why not everybody go? Why not everybody? And then they said, well, it's actually not everybody. It's like 99.99999. And I said, oh really? Well, okay, then
Ah,
actually I'm more interested. Why not everybody then? Who's staying? It's like, oh no, see, the people that stay, they're the people that started it all. They get to start over the world, and they'll be the new Illuminati, Cabal, whatever, right? They already know how to repeat the past experience. Once they do that, you basically have an archive in the Akashic of everything that's been done, and they hold the ground for that. They hold the space. They may not be the same ones that are now. Maybe they want to take a break and they say, hey, I already did, the last
I
25,000
did my
years.
stint, and somebody else.
I've done my dues, I've played that out. I get to come forward now. And somebody else will do that, And so they're literally anchors. Yeah. So um, they get to be what's termed as the zeros, right? You're either a 1 or a 0 in digital terminology, right? A 1 is a line, it's a fixed, it's a projection. A 0 is not a nothing, it's just a non-projection perspective of direct understanding. So 1 is a something. So the whole point was, at the end of 2012, was okay. Everybody's timelines are splitting. It wasn't just the end of. It wasn't just December 24th. It was like through the 29th and into the 2nd of January, really, because they're like, yeah. You can keep deciding. Go on. We'll let the stragglers in. The bus will wait for you, sort of thing. You'll get to move into this timeline. The timeline was anybody that wants to stick around here. The rule is you need to think of yourself. You have to come to the point where you see yourself as a something, okay, which is more than a nothing. So that's 51% something, 51% believing you should be living for some reason that you don't even need to know what it is. You need to have a reason to live and a desire to live and a desire to be something or continue being something, okay? It's only 51%. You have to either a something or you're a nothing, right? Nothing means you regress and you move into timelines where you explore being a really excellent nothing, it could be like feudal system. I'm a king of a terrible world or something, a something out of nothings. It's just another world. So there's a split. Two worlds arrived at that point. Yourself and myself, we can't go back to there. All we have is the memories of those potentials. But we know, in essence, we're not interested in that world of being a nothing. We're interested in being a something. So that's why we're here. Everybody here on the planet is interested in being a something. Okay? Now, once everybody gets it, and I don't mean like everybody's already gotten that they want to be a something, there's a place where they fully realize, where yes, I really can be a something. Actually, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how I really be a something. And it comes to this place where you start to say, you know what? There's a lot going on here I didn't realize. Now that I've decided to be a something, Now I get to be a something. Now I get to be a one or move towards one. The current vibration right now is 78% of people are really realizing that there's more than meets the eye at this point. There's something about being a something that we didn't know, that we did not know before. That we did not know before the end of 2012. It's revealing itself in many, many different ways. It doesn't have to be learning about the law of one. That's like 90% a perfect game right there, if you could figure that out. But, you know, even so, it still remains space for exploration, because if it was 100%, you'd read that, you'd get it, and you wouldn't be here anymore. Now, it does change people's lives, but it doesn't so much that you can literally live a completely different existence as a result. Same thing with, you know, Abraham or Bashar, or whatever. They can only tell you things that you need to find a way of adopting yourself in your way. They can't live it for you, otherwise they would, and they have. It's an offer. It's a space. If they don't give you your creative sovereignty, then they're just repeating themselves. They're just doing something that's already been done, which is not exciting. Sharing and offering to places of your awareness that is not already you is what you really want to do. You want to expand on those around you. You and I are here offering to our world to discover itself. Not just us, but itself. And as that platform of everyone getting it will say, oh, I can keep going now. I can go a little bit further. Now, you're always at the top of your own pyramid of creation and awareness. You yourself, I myself, there's basically no one above our levels of awareness. If there was, we would immediately go and check them out and say, what else can I find out? And you'd adopt exactly what's suitable for you and what's suitable for me. And we keep on that blazing head of the firecracker experience, or the firework, and everything that trails behind. I mean, we're more interested in the vast exploration. Everyone is looking at us in another way, or we'll say the trail that we leave behind as like that's something that's glitter and beautiful and interesting to look at. So we'll take a look at that, and now we're directed in observing. There's something about that person and being in alignment. I don't know how to explain it, but that person's happy. That person is definitely discovering something amazing in whatever they're doing. And so often people adopt, say, I want to do it just like you did. And they do it a little while, they're like, no, not exactly the way you did. I need to see it a little bit more my way. But I got an idea of how you did it. It's like learning, this is how you did it, okay. It feels something like this,
And it feels to me like what's coming and actually here in many ways, because I've been able to feel it, and I can feel it with you when you're speaking as well, is that we communicate through our energy field, and more and more so. More directly, more understandingly from within, so it's even more powerful, and just being as we are can shift others, especially if our intent is to help that, to assist that. But I've actually had that happen when I was in Morocco. I had an experience, and that was the other thing that I was talking to Matt about at the same time. I was telling him about that other incident that kind of had that vortex open up. That was something that happened where I popped out into the higher dimensional reality. I was filled with unconditional love. I was unconditional love. I am that, but I was fully aware of that at the time. And a little boy came into contact with me, one that had proven himself to be very, very difficult for quite some time. And he was getting ready to leave with his father, and he turned around and he looked at me, and his eyes caught mine, and I looked into him, and I saw him. I saw the beauty of him, and he saw that I saw him, and that connection was made, and it changed him. It changed him from that moment on.
Yes. Now,
significantly.
Now, what happens when you're in that state? Okay, which you're achieving in micro elements here and there. You're sifting in and out of it. It's a state. There's no facts behind it. It's just a state that you understand of love, right? When you're in that state, you're transforming your surroundings consciously and unconsciously. But as you are also aware, your eyes are one of the few projector receiver elements that can literally give someone everything they need from you, right? You can literally communicate without anything besides just looking at someone. There's these experiments, funny enough, going on right now in recent past where people are doing these staring experiments. They sit down, cross-legged from each other, and they just stare into each other's eyes, and the world collapses. See, what happens is you begin to absorb literally all the benefits and joy and higher vibrations within another person, because that's actually what you want to see. If you're ready to see sorrow and sadness, you're not here. You're in that other split, right? In the past, you would see sorrow and sadness, but if you give yourself the time, you will see that joy that's in you, that you can connect in a high level of empathy. It's like a physical, unconscious connection that occurs. And so you can literally look at someone with a fixed gaze, and it'll be different for each person on both sides, but when the escalation gets up, it'll be insanely impossible not to smile, because the joy expressed in energy and love comes out in smiling. It comes out in the face. And then you're just laughing and giggling. It's almost impossible. Now, when you have deep-seated fears and issues you don't want to share, which is much more ready in the other world that we left, then that immediately comes to the surface to be healed by the other person's joy. Like the light itself will heal that. Now, people will look away and be like the ashamedness of that. But if you're ready, you can look into someone's eyes and receive all the healing of that person's soul has to reflect onto you. And you'll walk forward that day later with all the insights. They'll start to bubble up, and you'll start to see like why to be beyond being afraid, why to find unity, or why to find benefit, or so there's a lot of that happens. Gurus in India, they used to call this bestowing Shaktipat, right? Where the eyes of the guru were the key to, a longer living life and whatnot. And what would happen is that they would activate the Kundalini in the body, and it would charge up from the ground base of the spine, where energy all starts, and expand into the rest of the body. And, literally like can feel like you start sweating, but you're not actually sweating because it's so hot and so intense as a result, because the transformation is like a new tree growing up inside of you. Now, a lot of people like that experience, but at the same time, many people choose not to have that because they walk out into the world and they're unable to relate to people, and people are unable to relate to them. And so they find this way of like softening the blow. It's like after that, they're just trying to not feel like they're like a walking man on fire, and they're just trying not to make everything catch fire because they're uncomfortable with the idea that they're forcing people to grow with them. They're not comfortable with that. They feel like they're taking free will away from them. But you can very well do that. You can very well look into people's eyes and begin to transform. Now, there is more transformation in greater proximity. So there is a transformation when, you can do it through cameras and pictures and all this sort of thing, but physical proximity entangles more senses, right? So right now, you and I have the hearing and the seeing, and I have the aura sight too. But beyond that, when you're breathing the same air, you're sharing the same particles and the same physical vibration of the space that's in your grounded space. So there's a more visceral thing. So physical proximity, it's almost like everyone can offer this to one another in person and change the world, in a day. In fact, that was one of the timeline options that was foreseen to be an offering, that one person will look into the next person's eyes and share that. And then approximately 10 to 15 minutes of this per person, and the entire planet would be transformed through a general relation net. It would take a couple days. But the point is that was one ascension, planetary ascension process. It is actually, from what I'm being told, that is the end game. So wherever we are at the date that I've called my retirement date, it ends through that process if it wasn't acquired through other means. It is almost like the guaranteed mechanism. So you observing that eye connection transformation, you saw that, and that's sort of like another way of you knowing that is really how it happens sort of like that's the last resort, that will do the trick, right? There is one other one that is not what happens on this planet, and that's where everyone basically reveals their greatest fears to one another, and everybody says, don't worry about that, don't be afraid. And everybody reassures each other that their deepest fears are fears that are going to be supported so that you don't experience that. The other person is going to protect you. So everyone counter protects each other. It's like a very, very loving relationship. And everyone is love. That's how it works. When you connect through eyesight, you become love because you're receiving love at the same time. You're receiving honesty. Honest love is undefinable. You can't actually conclude to say, you're looking at me with an agenda to use me. It's not possible. About 10 to 15 minutes, all barriers are surpassed between any two things. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror.
Is it possible for that to happen in less time? I was thinking.
Well, yes,
even
10
less.
minutes, 10 to 15 minutes is like the extreme case. Like if you're looking into the eyes of someone that's in prison, right, who fully thinks that they're trash, right? It only takes about 15 minutes to give them the hope of all possibility in them and spark them with that, you see, right? So it's relative to each individual, chemistry connection, and it's usually only shows up based on your comfort and readiness. Essentially, you operate an extremely effective rate of doing that when that time comes. There's also a much subtler version of that, which is holding hands and multiple people holding hands in a row. We've already seen the symbology of that. That does it too. But eyes will pretty much take people up to the percentage of choice where they are not just I'm a something versus a nothing. It comes for me at around this time next year, where everybody is not only a something, but they're like more like 70%. The 99% of the people in the world are around 70% of the time believing that they're not only a something, but they've begun to figure out how they will be something. It's like everyone wants to figure out how to live the American dream. Well, this sort of like steps them out of the illusion of the limitations of the American dream and actually gives them more of an American dream possibility, right? They're like, hey man, things are just working out for me. I feel like I know how to feel in order for this to occur, right? And I've gone beyond some of my greatest fears that prevent me from feeling that way. And some will keep their greatest fears. Some will still be afraid of spiders. Some will still be afraid of jumping off a cliff. It doesn't matter. To keep all those says, you know what? Keep those discomforts so that people can still explore them who've never heard of them before. So we're still going to have cliff diving. We're still going to have, setting your body on fire and see what it's like in a protected suit or something. There's still going to be all those great fears, but they'll be nowhere near as close to being present in our experience as we thought they were before, right? And this is the letting go of the negativity. This is, people overall basically choosing to realize that being a something is in everyone. And it's a personal ownership of being a something. No one can tell you that to be a something. Otherwise, that's a fear. Your greatest fear is being determined by someone else that you're maybe a something or not. But everyone here says I'm a something, and no one is going to ever get me to believe I'm not a something for very long, because inherently my natural vibration is to bring me to the place of something. Now, how did that happen? Because we didn't lose half the population, right? We didn't.
Right.
But all those aspects of us that said we didn't want to be something, those went on. We have infinite bodies and infinite experiences of ourselves. So
God!
Right? So this idea that we can't be a nothing, you can. And you know what? If you really, really, really want to, and you feel like there is actually still a whole bunch to get out of the being a nothing world, I can go back to that nothing world and be like a god. And I will help that world, and I'll still keep fishing and trying to bring people into awareness that they are something. Because that goes through another cycle, another Kali Yuga, where they get to eventually realize that they're all something and get that choice again, right? Or they get to go back. So, and it's not them, because 6 billion people, 7 billion people, they're still here. It's all those potentials, all those explorings. It means I'm not going to explore being a nothing so much anymore. I'm only going to explore the idea of being a nothing in a particular case about 30% of the time. But because I'm exploring being a something, I'm going to become more and more alive. Is that pretty clear, right? It's very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So, like, do you have any sense of what people like us are going to be doing?
Yes, but only me.
Mm-hmm.
Only myself. I have a sense by everyone that I have a similar life experience with. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cloud 9, what they were telling me. Because what happens is that when you go up there, I was awake, I had my eyes open, I was talking with Crystal, and I was describing and I was channeling, because it was exciting to do so. I was channeling a couple of other of my lives that already had a there's other little Buddha self-like lives that were very presently there and have been there for some time, and they were sharing enlightening knowledge about existence, on the planet as a human, and societies and things like this, and they all had all these different contributions for how to walk out of disempowerment. So they're describing all these empowerment philosophies very, very simply. Like, immediately you get it. Like, oh my God, you're right. Death is really not what it is. Oh, food. Oh my God. Food is just energy. Food, and you decide what the energy is going to be by how you feel what you are when you take it in. Just like everything. Food, it can become anything to you. Just like, programming your water. Most food has a water quotient in it, in which it will literally describe to the rest of the particles, this is the plan, everyone. This is what we're going to be. And everyone that doesn't want to be that, you're just going to go through the system. You're just going to, go in one end and go out the other end, right? So they brought to me the description of the one and the zeros. They said, you know what? When you get to a place where you feel like you're in cloud 9, we'll say you won. You didn't lose, you won. And so we call you a 1. You're not really a 1, but you're really like ready to be a 1, right? And when you're a 1, you get to be a 0 to all new sorts of things. 0 is ground zero. It's the starting place. It's not a nothing. It's definitely a place where you say, from this 0, from this circle, I'm going to explore from this terminology of what this, this 0 is. It's not an absence of anything. It's a platform. So the 0, the letter O, and the letter I, and the vowel I, those are basically the two functional endpoints of human experience. I and
Oi.
O. Okay?
Anyway.
Oi.
Oi.
So, okay. So, in tarot, you're familiar with the 0, right?
Yep.
The 0 card.
Yep. Cool.
Right, and the 21. But the 1 and the 0 basically say what everything else comes afterwards, right? Everything else is a play on 1s and 0s.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why we have strings of code that don't include just a 0 or a 1. It's combinations of the arrangement. Okay. So you also know that I is a vowel that's made with the mouth, and O is the other vowel that's made with the mouth. The other vowels are in between vowels, right? They're all in between points. And the consonants are all ways in which you cut and create a defining moment by a structured consonant of saying, because it cuts like this, we give a definition. We're going to call this a 6, because it's the 6th letter of the alphabet, and that's what it is. It comes right after E. And after E, you get a sound that cuts off E that leads it to this. And so you have all the consonants. In English, you can observe them, but they're in all languages. The consonants exist. And based on the language that, believe it or not, they call different cultures species on Earth. So different species of human, defined by location and dialect and language, because it also defines what religions usually tie in with that too. It's almost like the language itself defines the species. And when you learn multiple languages, you start to cross species, pollinate the values of both in a way. But anyways, as you have a dialect, they use more consonants than others, as you're familiar, and so they explore forms of reality that use more of the vibrational consonant vowel combinations, you see. So when you look at like a word that has vowels and consonants put together, you're actually looking at an equation, like a mathematical ones and zeros combination relativity sequence. So words are vibrations, and they're mapped out vibrations. And when we look at words, we say, you know, we'll just say the English language, because that's one way that we understand our vibrations and our sounds, right? But all the languages revere the sound I and O the same way. That's the only constant between all languages. The sound I and O both have a universal highest meaning of direction, a something, and a nothing, an O. But we've also come up with other words for that. We say won. I've won. That's the winning point. And then they have the O, which is, we'll say the beginning point, right? Yes.
Yeah.
It was really funny because they actually gave me a word that I was like, really? Really? They gave me the word shit, which is the definition for the human 3D experience of that's the bottom level. It's like the worst level of vibrating and feeling is shit. And that's why people use the word shit as the end of it. And the word shit is actually a secret that it's at the bottom end of human joy and human potential. Shit is like the end of human potential, essentially. And it's adopted that way. It's shh. That's it. Okay? So that's really why they use that. And it's, you know, described as poop. Right? Because poop has no functional value. It's the only thing we give up, right? Whatever we couldn't deal with, we give up and it becomes poop, right? We move on. But that's a platform, a zero platform, as fertilizer. So it's still not nothing, okay? It's just nothing that we're utilizing, okay? So when we say shit, that's the end of human usefulness, you might say, right?
Right.
If you're bottom of the barrel, we use that word, so that's the vibration. Shh, that's it. That's the secret. And that was defined by the original progenitor species that chose this space and decided that it was going to come to a fruition in understanding this in English. Okay? So those are the grounders that help develop human society and all those things. They decide human society, shit is it. One is winning. One, you're at an escape vector. You're not fully realizing you're one, as in the one in God, but you have an escape vector that says you're going to be something else. Because once you fully know that you're a one, and once you've won, you're a platform for all new exploration. Okay? That's what's going on. You and I are in the vibration of one. Like, we've won this. We've got it. We know that we have nothing to fear going forward because we have all the solutions at our fingertips for anything that limit us, should we choose. And we do that, and we explore. We have won. We've got the key vector potential. We're moving in a direction that's not going to turn around. We can coincidentally turn around and revisit, but we'll always come back out of it. It's an escape vector. And the escape vector eventually gets to the point where human experience, just the way that we've known it, the old world, we call it the old 3D or whatever, it simply becomes pretty invalid each time we come around and readdress every limitation. Every time we come around and decide to address all the limitations, we're really, really much more detached, right? And people can see us, and we can share that in a way that other people will experience it, right? And they're saying, this person is somehow won the game. I don't know why. This person's really lucky. They call it synchronicity. You know, that's the only thing I can sort of understand, but it's still luck or something until they find their own true escape vector. It's like there's nothing to fear. You've always come out of this. You've always come out of the shit, essentially, because you can, as long as you're able to see the bigger picture and connect with the bigger picture, which is where you're going beyond being just a human in the way that we used to know it, then you always have that potential. When you're there, you tend to pop up above, you get so excited about life, you tend to pop up in cloud nine, and you say, wowee, there's a party going on here. There's just cheering, 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 cheering. I didn't know why I always like to write at the end of my emails, cheers. And I realized, oh, because I'm trying to remind people that it's all cheers, it's all hooray, you know, you're on your way sort of thing. So when they're up there, it's like a crazy party. I mean, I don't know how to describe crazy in the way that it's like elation, but you just can't not walk away from that without being profoundly influenced by
Yeah.
how great everything's going and how perfect it is. Everyone there is doing what they call, and I'm going to address it once and for all here. They either call it fishing or they call it harvesting, right? Where what they do is they jump back off cloud nine, they jump back in, they go back into non-awareness, or in other ways, you know, the spirits and ascended masters, they all do this. They jump back in, and they go back and they try to learn more about themselves and bring more potential back with them. And that's seen in the reflection of all those people that they're helping around them, right? So they kind of play this game like, how many people did you fish up this time, right? How many people did you help, bring to this awareness of oneness? And like, oh, I got like 5 this time, And it tends to be diminishing returns, right? It tends to be this thing where you're either like, yeah, because, you're like, get to a point where I really can't get much more. Then you start choosing a different experience. You start choosing more ascended master-like states and whatnot. And you don't observe fishing anymore. You just literally are in a place that's different than everyone realizes. This person like belongs in an ashram or something. You just can't approach regular life to this person. You can't bring regular life to this person's door, But, and so it becomes observed like that. But that's just an anchor. That's just the stair. You want to go find a way to oneness, go find the ladder that's in that ashram or something, and they'll show you through that how to climb that ladder or something, as people are, they have like, they have a program on the internet or something. They have a course. These are all offerings that don't say, I'm going out there, I'm going to help all my friends. I'm just providing a place here and it's open for shop. You know what I mean? You open for shop. And so when you get to that point of diminishing returns of how many people are going to help in my local surroundings or an effect, the way the mind sees it, okay? You're always helping people, but this is the mind's journey. When you're below the cloud, it's the mind's game. The mind's the one that's really calling a lot of the shots here. The higher self only has influences, subtle influences, by affecting reality and inviting reality in your surroundings that show up as synchronicities. Like, follow synchronicity, you'll do well, right? The mind can choose to say, no, I'm not going to, if it wants to. Or it can realize that states of mind that allow more visible synchronicity to be at play, it knows that it gains more balance in that, meditative states of mind, and whatnot. So there's this spiraling effect of jumping back down off the cloud and moving down into this place. And that keeps going and keeps going. And then you got your retirement date. Then you say, you know what, I've decided that on my vector of ascension, my own vector of ascension, I have a time. And this is the time that I choose. Now, when I say, for me, it's the end of next year, I don't mean everyone's, glowing and flying around, with magic and all this sort of thing. I mean, everybody's on their own escape vector. 70% realization that they can make anything happen. Quite literally, without anyone getting in their way when they choose. The ones that they choose to be in their way, it's a very short-lived experience. So it's literally, limitations become extremely short-lived around a year from now in everyone's lives that I see. And I will go off. I'm going to go start really living my life in a whole nother fashion. I am through the next year in all new ways already because of my significant dropping of my fears and specific programmed limitations that I've had. But in a year from now, it goes to a whole nother level. So there's no, we'll call Bing Bada Boom Day, but that's the day that I will quickly institute.
Did that change?
What's that?
Was it 20? 17 originally? Did it change, or did you just figure out that it was a
No,
different
I didn't.
day, or?
All I knew is that I wanted to reach a place for myself here.
Okay.
So I met my date. Okay, and that's why I was given the Cloud Night experience. And I'm going to I'm going to continue to be able to visit it during other major moments through the next year. It's not September and whatnot wasn't the only spot. There's several major energetic jumps that we have throughout this next year, as fulfilling as they are. This one in particular just had a lot to do with Saturn and crumbling the last Saturn vestige of control, if that makes sense. So,
Mm-hmm.
so everything that relates to what I've been offered as a belief system by the world, by other people, I have a really, really comfortable place in understanding that. I feel I can talk to anybody about that and help them find the escape vector of any sort of challenging thought. Within any period of time. It can be, if I've only got 5 minutes, then I'll give it to you in 5 minutes. I feel all potential is realized, and the amount of time that's given is literally what's being requested, and that's how much that's being processed. So in this place, I'm literally looking at massive potentials exploring across the planet. I see many, many, many people doing a lot of the same sort of thing that I'm doing, which is just talking and sharing and having these, whatever life transformational conversations and whatnot. And that's also why I'm moving into doing a couple workshops. I wouldn't call them conferences, because conferences is more like someone on a stage, spelling it out. Workshops are where I want to get into a place where people are evidentially in themselves seeing the escape vector. The escape vector is, seeing themselves as one, and to a great potential that they never have to lose hope again. That sort of thing. You can lose hope, but every time it'll be very, very short-lived, right? So it's almost impossible at this phase to have lost hope for more than 24 hours. So 24-hour loss of hope, there's no depression that can really last longer than that at this point. The ones that do are the ones that have multi-tiers. It's like depressed about this, but it actually is about this, which is actually about this, which is actually about this, which is actually getting deeper and getting down to the core of things. So you can be depressed for more than 24 hours, which is exciting because you're going to discover some really great stuff that's going to change your awareness of yourself, right? Which leads to really big escape jumps, really big explorations. So in general, we can talk about a little bit of what you've been asking for on your Beyond Cloud 9 prepared space. Because what you do here is a preparation. You get to carry on everything that excites you. So it's not a world that doesn't contain things that already excite you. But the things that already excite you is sort of like, this is the starting point. You get to live everything that excites you at a minimum level of living. Okay? So everything that excites you now is like basic living. It's like being 3 years old, right?
Yeah.
I like eating, I like exploring, and I like talking, and trying to talk. And in your case, there is, well, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into it, but there's some that have a great deal of detail to them. For instance, you have this ability, you already have it, but you're going to see this, the great wonder in it is that you're going to paint reality, physically paint reality. So as you paint, you're actually creating a mimic to appear in a very short span of time. So it's like painting a window, so that one point you step and you'll go like this to life, and you'll be like, everything that I had in my painting is right in front of me, either vibrationally or visibly. What I painted is right here. I just created this moment. I created exactly like how I'm feeling it right here. You'll see that on a couple occasions. You should have already gotten hints of that.
I have.
But you'll see it very pronounced. And then you'll be like, well, hot damn, I'm going to paint a massive, super detailed, awesome everything sort of thing. And you'll be like, oh my God, and you'll get to explore that. I'm being told that you're going to paint Avalon. and the world of Avalon, and that you'll be literally walk into it and you'll be like, oh, hey fairies, I knew you were always there. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. You know, I didn't know why we haven't had these one-to-ones, you know, these chats. And so Avalon is one of your most amazing paintings that you're preparing and developing for. It's actually more like a mural, and it's what I'm being told is that it's going to be that people are going to ask you to repaint it over and over and over again, and you're going to be overjoyed because they're going to ask you to paint it in their homes and in public spaces and whatnot, and it's going to be the same invitation to where you were moving. In which case they have access to the same vibrations. So you're literally going to almost like create like a door that people can walk through, but not physically walk through. Does that make sense? But it's an extreme
Yes.
energetic attachment to what they're giving you. You see, it's like as if Avalon is giving you the picture. You download Avalon. You download what it looks like, and the trees, and the colors, and the floaties, and things like that that are there. I've seen it. And I know why it'll be inspiring when you want to do it, but you won't be able to just like plan it out. It'll be one of those things where you're doing it bit by bit because you can't see it all at once. Your mind
That's
can't
how it
process.
works.
Yeah, it's like you gotta paint
It's
in
strange.
layers and go through it bit by bit, and you fill it out, and it gets quite big. And there's a point where you say, I'm cutting the lines here and here. I'm stopping. Right? So when you do the other Avalons, they won't be the same painting, right? Like there'll already be posters made by people. And they're like, fine, making a copy is one thing. But it'll be like, if I ran 50 feet in this direction, this is now what it looks like from here. So there'll be lots and lots of angles, and they'll all be put together to flesh out that experience. That after the first time you do it, you're going to have that experience in other ways. Probably not physical, but then leading to physical. So when I say not physical, I mean like, you know, your mushroom trip. It's very visceral. It's very literal. It's very easy to remember and very easy to take with you and that sort of thing, right? So that's one
Will
of...
the first one be a mural that I do for someone else?
It doesn't matter. There's no
Doesn't matter.
definition on that.
Okay.
Okay? Most likely, you'll be very attached to it. It'll be almost like your favorite painting, sort of feel for a time. Now, that's not only the only painting you do. You do paintings of all sorts of stuff in various degrees and whatnot. And this is really only over just the next 2 years. I mean, you're doing these things. There is also this place where you... I don't know if you already have this crystal collection, but your crystal collection is going to take on a life of its own. Crystals will begin attracting more crystals, and all of a sudden people will start thinking you're the crystal lady or something, so they'll just be like, I have this crystal, I want to send it to you. And so you become a bus depot for crystals. Crystals come and crystals go. And all the crystals come into alignment for the vibration that is you and who you are and your awakened state and your vibration of joy and expression. So they all become like little Judys in the deeper sense of the word. Right? Not the egoic sense of the word. So they all become like little Judys in different aspects. You know, they'll have different preferences for what parts of them that they'll take with you. And they'll come and then they'll go. And they'll find the people will be sending you stuff to leave with you for a while. And then you'll know when it's time to give it back to them and whatnot. So it becomes sort of like a way station conversion terminal sort of thing in the place that you exist. In the place that you surround yourself with. And they aren't going to be like, I don't see like an altar. I see them like, you know, spread out, you know, all over the place. Almost like different areas of where you live or the space that you occupy are bringing in different Judaisms or something like that. So different parts of yourself. And that energetic process, you'll see extreme awakening energy, because what happens in the vibration of who you connect with in this adventure with the sharing of the crystals and moving crystals back and forth, you'll see people's excitements unfold, and those individuals, those excitements are literally aspects of yourself that are getting unlocked. So on an unconscious level, you just are like printing money in a way, you know what I mean? It's like it has an extremely heavy feedback, because unlocking a door means you get to do a lot through that door, not just a one-time shot, right? It may look like a one-time experience where you step past a limitation or something like that. We'll just say somebody with a broken arm, okay, is like in the hospital, a little girl, she broke her arm and she's all distraught about it, and she gives you a crystal, or you give her a crystal, and her arm gets healed and everything, and she comes and she says, Judy, thank you for your crystal. The doctors say my arm healed faster than they expected. In fact, they almost wonder if they had the wrong x-ray in the first case, because it got better not over 2 months, but like over like 6 days, like a full fracture. And thank you. I got back in my life, and now I'm excited by what this means. This super healing, whatever that was going on. And my life has changed forever by that. And you hear this, and you're like, I did this. I'm a part of this. I'm a part of that being available to the world that much more, you see. So it's information to your mind. It's information to your ego. It's almost like your ego can't take full charge of it, but it needs to take a little bit of ownership so that it can unlock its own potential of the thoughts that it can explore and the worlds that it can explore with itself. Okay? So that crystal element is there. There's another thing that's... okay, I'm just going to tell you because I don't care. You actually become a relationship counselor. So people will literally say, what's wrong with this picture? And you're like, that's what's wrong with the picture. You're like, how do you know that? I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I know that, but I know that that's what I'm supposed to tell you. It's this thing where just look in that direction. If you want it, we can elaborate right now. We can explore that together right now if you want. You tell me what you think that means, and then we'll get into that. I'll listen to what you're saying, and then, yes, we can get into the subtleties and the energies and the mechanisms behind that. But the relationship counseling isn't for this long-term, like, should we get married? Judy, you're the person that helps me decide to get married. It's more along the lines of, right now, you want to make the maximum use of your relationship. And that's all it is. Present maximum use of relationship. Because who can say what maximum potential delivers on next, right? Maximum potential is too many options to play with. There's no true place where you can say a relationship has this mapped out, because in this world now, all potentials get to be explored as it suits. And you, for some reason, decide that you don't want anybody to ever explore a limit in a relationship ever again, so you'll only describe the escape vectors, not the limit vectors. So you can't even perceive what their limitations may be following them. You may perceive the one or two next chess moves that might occur by the egos in the relationship. You can probably see those chess moves that come out, and you can discuss them. But pretty much after that, people get the idea of how this works, and they can take that with them. So that is going to be very popular. It's along the lines of, like, book author level awareness. Thousands of people will be touching base on you with this. It's almost like your more obvious public offering in a way. How it starts is not through anything that you do, interesting enough. What you do has nothing to do with how it starts. It literally starts around you, and you agree to take the job, sort of thing, if that makes sense. Yes. You don't figure it out. It's literally, Judy, we gotta have you do this. We prepared everything for you. We got it all set up. Take a look, please. Yes.
That's perfect.
Right. There is, those are the three more pronounced realities that you're playing out in very small ways, to sort of like thread the last couple of threads through the weaving, because you're already very comfortable with these subjects. You're already very comfortable owning these things. But there is one that stands out, we'll say, a head above those three. And that, I'm thinking, could take a little bit longer. One moment. Okay. So you're already familiar with tarot, but the rest of the world is not. And there is extreme potential when you see the different levels that a message, a tarot reading can give, right? There's many levels. So there's like the message for the average 3D person, am I going to get a new job, or, something basic and simple, right? But there's like deeper visions within that can be cultivated, that can be tapped into. It's almost like you're getting to the place where the person that invented tarot was coming from when they came up with tarot. It's like that really, really knowing what's vibrationally going on here, like what the vibrational process is. It has something to do with how you choose reality by choosing a mechanism that says allow, right? So they are literally saying, I allow because this is random, this is luck, this is synchronicity. So it's a connection through a higher spirit that says, my heart says this is bringing this about. But in the place that you offer it, becomes a non-definition. In order to allow it, you have to have no investment in it too, because you want to allow, and therefore you have to allow of your allowing in your experience. And so you find an even deeper level, you're already doing this, an even deeper level of allowing by literally doing more what feels like channeling in a way, almost like channeling the message. And so you're actually channeling yourself to a mirror of yourself to support a part of yourself, while at the same time, that other self that was, supporting you to do the reading for, they're giving you the energetic truth and grounding, saying you're right. You're bringing this in right. And I feel it. And I'm showing my gratitude in these ways. And it shows. And it becomes energetic unlocked. And so that's another unlocking mechanism for you in a process of exploration. That goes to a whole nother level. I want to say where you come from, you can influence every physical function of existence through that. And you can do it by also choosing, which is another way of saying, I want to do this. I want to start a company. You draw the cards, you determine a placement that means the most, like an arrangement that means the most, and it'll literally tell you how to do it. Now, someone just reading this will be like, that doesn't mean anything. But you, all it is a conduit saying, actually, I do know how this works. I didn't realize I knew how this works, but when I look at these, it's evident I know exactly how this works. I know exactly how this comes into play. I unlock all the little energetic pieces that build this experience into play if I need that definition, which I don't for most of the time, but if you choose, you'll know exactly how a creation gets put together. This will literally be one of the three primary ways that you decide to create life and explore life. It's the one that you start with. So it's the one that's the most recent present case. The other two get a little bit fuzzier because you develop some abilities that you don't already have before you get into the other two. Do you want me to tell you about them? Okay. So the other two is you begin to, it's called stirring water, which is another way of operating magic where you have your finger in water and you stir water. And you create a mantra. So you repeat the mantra, and it's like a sentence or a phrase or a paragraph. You repeat it, you write it down first off, and you stir your finger in it, and you stir your index finger in it. And you will literally find that this water turns into some sort of alchemical thing that anybody that drinks this will have this experience. And the more that you develop at, the faster that experience comes into play when you do it. And it's mostly through seeing the results of it working, right? So at first it could be like, 2 weeks before you see it manifest. But because you saw it manifest, now you've got that much more unlocked potential within you, and you are able to do it more and more. The difference here between anybody doing this and you doing it is that the mantras are highly synchronistic, and they're extremely heart-centered. So they're really, really connected to your love center and your higher self wisdom that normally does not operate on excitement. It's your mind's awareness of the wisdom that brings you excitement, right? So your mind gets exciting and it shows it through your body, but it's really sort of like you say something and then you catch on, oh my God, I just said this. This is awesome. And then you're like, yes. And so you do this stirring, and in many ways, this is a personal experience, but you'll find that it's really fun to share as well. It's also a reality creator. Like literally, you'll see things show up. You can literally be like, President Obama is going to reveal ETs, something like this, it can literally be like that. Like, hot damn, that worked. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh my gosh, so, and it literally, you drink that water, and once the water's done, then, that's your dose. So you'll know when the dose is small and when it's big, right? And so you'll know that you'll want to take your time with it. It'll be instinctual. It'll either be the size of like a punch bowl, at the maximum level, or it'll be like, like a teacup or something, So that practice is not at the foremost of your realization at the moment, but it is one of those things that, from what I understand, is very tickling to you. The other is photography. I don't know if you do. Do you do photography already? So
I have, and I loved it.
okay.
I do, and yes. So yes.
So in photography, what you are always really doing is you're capturing vibrations that you want to be in your vibration. So you had an opportunity to see it incidentally, but you say, I want that to be grounded. So you'll become more familiar with how that works and more how that operates. So you'll do things like create, a studio where images are available. You'll have ways of sharing the images to just the right people that want to experience this. And you'll find ways of reissuing connections by choosing like an image or several images. Like you'll draw them at random, like a tarot deck, and you'll say you'll put them and you'll bring them up, and you'll have like 3 on your computer screen or 3 printed out or something like that. And you'll be like, there's something here between all of them. It's like these are 3 puzzle pieces here. That's like I got 3 pieces of puzzle from a jigsaw puzzle. What's this picture say? What is this saying? And the synchronicity will literally be like, oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea this is what I was really about. I had no idea. I'm ready for this now. I'm ready. And you explore what is to come through that system. So through photography, very specifically, the images that you take, there's other people's photography, but it does not have the life that your own photos have. So on many ways, you're going to start to see yourself wanting to journey, wanting to explore, wanting to find, just be in discovery mode, exploring mode. I want to find wonderful things to take pictures of. And you'll you may even go to like a museum and just take pictures of ancient things, right? And be like, oh my God, this is what's really going on in here. Oh my God, the Mona Lisa isn't anything about, this weird lady at all. It's about the environment. The lady is supporting the environment. The environment itself is a place of like muted beauty that's like waiting to explode, like a field of flowers or something. And you get that vibration. You're like, oh, now you look at the Mona Lisa and you're like, this is awesome, field of flowers, sort of feel. Because it's like, the darkness for which the light is coming through, because that's your escape vector, your neural awareness of how you put like the silver lining into everything. You're the one that gets to place the last tinsel on the tree. You're the one that finishes it. So anyhow, it keeps going in those types of directions. These are your creation tool belt pieces that are showing up. What you create is even much, much more deeper and much, much more rich. Anytime that I were to describe what comes of that, besides the tools, is you're getting my reality. You're getting my creation. But I'm more interested in seeing what you have and what you bring to my reality without my knowing. Because on one hand, my mind says, Julien, you think that's awesome, and that's why it's happening for her. And I said, yes, but I also want to discover what's awesome for me. And I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So I want to know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So
woo!
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. So nothing but love going forward, really, in everything. Love isn't everything, and you can always pull that out. It's your silver lining to display and say, I won. The whole job here was to win, and presenting and pulling that silver lining out of what it is. Sometimes you need to gather its friends and realize this is the big picture. This is the silver lining for a bigger picture, not an incidental picture. You know what I mean? So, anyhow.
Sort of.
Well, what I mean is, like, say you step on a nail. You're like, whoa, I'm having a little bit of trouble with this silver lining here. I'm gonna have to admit, I feel like I'm gonna have to get a tetanus shot or something. Do you say, oh, wait a second, I've been presented this. This is my exploration. I'm in great pain. I've been put into a state of anxiety and adrenaline and whatnot. And then from that, you may find that actually this adrenaline is a really, really euphoric experience, right? Like this is really interesting, having adrenaline. You get to look at it again because now you have a different state in which to observe. You say, adrenaline is pretty awesome. I wonder what I can do with this. This is a lot of energy. Like life is moving in slow motion so that I can pack a lot of attention energy into this space. You start to say, you know what? I needed to go through this extreme pain because now I've got adrenaline, and now I love adrenaline. Now I can't wait to go skydiving and recite all my greatest creations that I've ever wanted to see in existence, spout them to the world while I'm going down. And that adrenaline will make it 10 times more, visceral pronouncement of energetic attraction. Like, you know? So you'll find, as you step out, Nail doesn't immediately speak adrenaline, but you feel your way to like what feels the best direction of thought, and you find, oh yes, and you're like, tetanus, you're not happening. I see your game plan. No more tetanus in the world. Tetanus.
Thanks for the gift, dude. See ya.
Yes. There you go. Yes, exactly. Fantastic. Tetanus is wonderful once upon a time. Now I'm really glad illness is not a part of my body's experiences. So.
There you go.
But I do got to get going here at this point.
For your time. So stinking awesome as usual. I could feel you coming in. Mwah. Thank you so much. And when you get a chance, share those with me, please.
Yes, I will. You'll get
Thank you.
You'll get that link. All right. You take care.
Just like a baby a hug for me, please.
I will.
All right.
Bye-bye.